Hola.
How's it going, everyone? Another day, another hump day.
Another day,
So,
another day.
We've
I
got...
just looked down and saw 18 notifications on Slack. I've only been gone for 5 minutes.
It gets busy.
And people want to add more Slack channels, and they want you to add their Discord channel. And
yeah, things get busy. So I guess we'll do the normal introductions here. Hang on, let's see. This is going to open up. Let's find out. So yeah, another hump day. Welcome. And my name is Simon Lightfoot, Flutter community leader, CTO of Dev Angels London, in a very, very hot London today. And you can follow me at Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am also a community leader. I am one of the organizers of GDG Cleveland. And I also work at Dev Angels London.
And if we bring Randall in, hey Randall, welcome.
Hey, greetings Randall. And salutations. Happy morning and afternoon.
Introduce yourself.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm also frequently on this show as a helpful question answerer, but I also am watching the chat room. So if you're on the live show, if you want your questions brought directly to us, precede them with Q: in the front. I am a Flutter Google developer expert, which means that Google has vetted me to say, hey, go ahead and answer things for people and let them know you're a GDE. So there's the combination of that. I'm also a full-time Flutter developer, so that's my day job as well.
Nice to have you. And we'll just quickly go through the do's and don'ts. Scott.
Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. Yes, it's YouTube. No, it's not Reddit. More on that later. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, offensive statements. Don't advertise your business. Don't tell people you're looking for work. Don't spam the same question repeatedly. We have a list. You'll end up at the bottom of it. And harassment of any kind, of course, is not tolerated. This means bigotry, incels, misogyny, all that other garbage that we all know about. And we do share ban lists. So if you disappear from here, suddenly your Slack login might not work anymore. Just saying.
Anyway, back to the fun stuff. Back to answering people's questions and having a good time.
Yep.
So
enough with the guillotine.
Yeah, we're going to try and keep today's show short. We're all quite very, very busy, actually. So get your questions in now, or forever hold your peace and all that jazz.
Yep. And actually, we are going to try to stick to a firm hard stop at an hour.
We'll try. We're going to try for half this time.
Yeah, good luck.
We realized that we were getting killed on Wednesdays as far as work goes, trying to get any actual work done, and also we realized we're the only ones who are doing 2 hours.
Yeah, but so 2 hours is good. We get a lot of good questions in 2 hours, though. It's actually a pretty good spin.
That's true, but
towards the end of the 2 hours,
a lot of work done that needs to be done.
Yeah. Towards the end of the 2 hours, there were a lot of questions that were actually answered in the first hour. And that gets to be a bit frustrating. It's like, just rewind the tape. Go watch it back there. We did answer already. So we have to tell people that. And hello to everybody who's watching us after the show has been recorded. But you really ought to be here with the live show, because it's a lot more fun, because then you can actually harass us and give us actual questions. So please watch for the announcements all over the usual locations.
I want to share this because I don't know if you've seen this. So apparently GitHub have just added support in their Markdown. So basically you do ** note ** colon or ** warning ** colon as a prefix, and you'll get now this note and warning symbols. That's quite nice in your Markdown.
Ooh.
So there's a little bonus tip for everyone that's been around for. I heard this through the grapevine. I've not tried it yet, but it looks like it could be fun. In terms of it's actually quite helpful. When you're doing those readmes, you're like, notes, you must do this. A warning, you must do this first. Ensure you have this file made and your credentials or something. I don't know. It's like, you can do that. That's quite helpful. There was also a couple of other things that have been going on. So actually not too long ago, something else was posted. So I don't know if you know, but Google flipped out their Google Pay app for I think for Google Wallet, because it used to be called Google Wallet for a while, right? Then Google Pay came out, and then they were like, actually, this is an app not to do payments but also to do wallet, and then they flipped it back again or something like that. So apparently, according to some people, researchers, AppBrain doesn't list Flutter as part of its thing. Obviously, Google Pay being a Flutter-based program, but Tim Sneath has come to the rescue here. It's just different apps. That's always complex with the international nature of these apps and branding. And then he listed here, and let me bring this back up on Twitter. There we go.
This is what happens when people who don't understand Flutter and what's going on internally try to make.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see from the outside, right? But anyway, it says here, it wasn't the former app. They're just different apps, basically. Perhaps the confusion. Google Pay is the new one, which is all Flutter, and Google Wallet is not. And that is focused on Vimeo PayPal step payments, where the latter is a wallet for storing digital payment cards. So basically, the first one is actually for making payments, and the second one is for storing your digital cards. They basically separate them off again now. So rather than like what they was flip, toggle back and forth, now they've separated them off again. But it sounds of it. That's what I get from reading this. There's obviously threads and all this other stuff that's going on. But yeah, anyway, so I'm sure there's all sorts happening. Let's get back. So yeah, yeah, I think that's it for now. I was trying Conduit recently. Conduit, so basically it was Aqueduct, which was that server-side Dart implementation, like whole sort of framework. And then the community, once it was shut, the owner decided not to continue with it. It didn't want to like maintain it more. So the community brought it, forked it into the Conduit, or Conduit for sure. Obviously, Aqueduct, Conduit, right? But yeah, I've been trying that. It's been quite nice actually. It still doesn't feel. There's a lot of stuff in it that has that notion of before we went to null safety, although it compiles as null safety, there's certain things that you need to make nullable, which you wouldn't do in null safety now. So it's still good. It's not fully transformed, I feel like, but you know, there's a big framework. These things take time. You don't want to break previous code and all this kind of stuff. So
it was lightly ported.
Well, it all compiles under null safety. It is null safe, but because it uses. So the problem I feel like it doesn't use code. It was before that time, before code generation was the thing. So it uses mirrors and reflection for a few different things. Yeah. So I'm not too fond of that side of it. But it's not, again, it's server side. You do that kind of stuff once. It can still be compiled. It's not too much of a big deal.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I'm finding it quite interesting. Especially with Cloud Run. Oh yeah, we did just to say that, yeah, the 3-part series I did with The Boring Show with Craig Lebens, that's finished now. That's all up there on YouTube. So go check out the official Flutter YouTube channel and you'll see all 3 videos. They started doing YouTube shorts with the videos that we were doing, and you've got me giving advice in YouTube shorts. I'm like, this is cringe, right? But the nice thing we did there is we actually got things like Cloud Run running with Dart on the server side and with Redis and WebSockets and all that kind of fun stuff that people want to do. And then I don't know if you saw, but Kevin Moore, Kev Moo, he published a little update to the shelf package. I say his shelf packages. I think it's just his. But let me see if I can find it. He actually did a little video. So let me see if I can bring it up here. Hang on. Share something. This is quite cool. I think you might find this interesting, both of you, if you haven't seen it. So let's bring this up. Let's make this bigger. I don't know. Yeah. So basically, oops. So 0 to running Dart HTTP server on Cloud Run in under 2 minutes. So basically, what he's done here. Let me mute that. Inside the new, there's a sample now for the server. When you go into it, he just talks through it. This is him just talking about the code, but basically now there's a button.
Run on cloud,
run on Google Cloud. You just press the button and it just spins it up. Job done, and you can instantly see it working. And then you just you follow the approval process, and then it deploys and all the rest of it. And then at the end of it, you've got a server running. Give it a second. There you go. You click on the link, and there it is. Package shelf example running in 1.25 minutes. So that's quite cool, right? Like it just shows you how quick you can get these things up and running now. But yeah, it's super simple to get sort of Dart running on the server side, which I really do enjoy.
So does it ask for a credit card number when you do that? Because that's like the next step, right?
Well, the thing is, you do actually need to use it. You do need to have cloud billing enabled. That is the caveat. Right. But of course, like I think that's like you just to be expected, because you can't tell usage, and you don't want things just to shut down when they get to the free limit. There is a free limit of usage that you get with it all. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head, but to be honest, I've been running cloud run instances, and it costs like £3 a month, £5 a month, or something like that. It's nothing, right? Like it obviously depends on usage, but you could also put obviously, if anyone hasn't done cloud stuff before, you always set a budget limit up, and you'll get warnings as soon as you hit this. You don't suddenly get a bill of $1 kajillion, right? So
alrighty, we are almost 15 minutes in and haven't started questions yet, but I do have one other thing to point out. This is an ongoing hair on fire situation, but if any of you are using awesome Flutter snippets for VS Code,
yes.
As of August 2nd or even 1st,
yesterday,
what happened there? Where there is an incident, somehow the publisher record got duplicated. One was one I had a capitalized first letter, and one was all lowercase. So Nash, the publisher, went to get rid of the duplicate. For whatever reason, the snippets store, whatever it is, deleted both publisher accounts.
This is one of those things of a developer being overzealous with case sensitivity and screwing the pooch.
Well, and what ended up happening, now we have contacts within Microsoft, and believe me, they are ringing the fire alarms and lights are going off. I'm looking at an email with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different internal people at Microsoft on it. The news may not be good right now. Unfortunately, for some strange reason, you would think this wouldn't affect users, but apparently it did. Having the publisher taken off apparently has really ruined users' ability to use this plugin, and I don't understand why.
I think it removes it off the machine, right? Like it's gone.
That's just it makes no sense to me. But anyway, I have questions about the design of this system. But it does. They're wondering if they have the metadata stored somewhere. So if he created a new publisher and republished, can you get all that metadata back? Because it was at 950,000 downloads. And this thing was just about to crest 1 million. And it says, unfortunately, deleting the publisher has completely deleted all the extension data. They're working on it.
I think the best thing that we can hope for, which I suggested, was just create a new publisher under the same name and a new widget under a new extension under the same name, and then ask them to like set the figures back to what they were. But I don't know if it's got like a UUID or unique ID on the old thing. You probably can't restore it because I don't know. And
there's a question of whether or not they could just set the downloads number back to 950 on a new publisher, so at least he's got that history. But the bigger problem is if he's got 950,000 downloads, you figure that there are at least 400,000 active users, and they're cut off right now. That's the much bigger question. So they're working on it. They're working on it furiously inside of Microsoft, and they are in touch.
It just doesn't make like. There's obviously a bug there, right? In the way the deletion takes place. It didn't confirm it's going to delete both either, and then it's like, well, even if that was the case, you'd think they would have like Google does when a deletion is just marked for deletion, then you get 30 days to actually like.
Well, there's that too. And then once a user has it on their machine, what are they doing reaching into the user's machine and taking it away?
Well, they're not. Then it's not like that. I think it's probably there still, but it's disabled because it no longer exists. And that is a practical point, right? Because it's the notion of one of these stores. And I think the same thing happens on the IntelliJ plugin store and various other places, where basically is you are the owner of that content, and if you do want to take it down, then it's your prerogative, right? But at the same time, is you just don't expect it to go like that and then not to be recoverable.
Yeah, anyway. And I'm not agreeing with the prerogative thing, because it's very much like a package. Once you depend on the package and you run your Flutter pub get, even if the package disappears, you've still got your local.
I can tell you that pub doing that is not the rule. That's not the general rule. That's literally not what most of them do. It's what's the thing that say the
there was the pad left incident for what was it node stuff and node installations. That was a weird one.
Should we get to some questions? Put your questions in the chat.
We got 5
this
already.
Person, because this has got to be somebody who knows me.
No, tech is
kind of an inside thing.
Anyway,
yeah.
There you go. Live chat, please.
And to answer a non-question question real quick about a roadmap to learning animations, there is a general Flutter roadmap right there. And it is in Alexei Lushenko's. I'm sorry. That's Alexei Lushenko. So go there, and that's a great roadmap to learn Flutter.
And the link is in the chat as well. There you go. Pop it in there.
Yep, you got that too. All right.
First question.
Questions.
Is there any way I can turn on Bluetooth from my app? Yes.
First, ask permission.
So it actually is that you basically tell the user to turn on Bluetooth, and you can take them to the Bluetooth settings. That's it. You can't do it because it's up to the user to press the button, right? Because it's one of those things that consumes power. Also, it's like you might be like just turning on someone's Bluetooth to communicate to the outside world is kind of like a very privacy-ridden problem, right? So you don't want to be seen doing that. That's very. I mean, you can imagine like it's a bit like you're suddenly turning on someone's Bluetooth. Also, they might have like a Bluetooth speaker, and suddenly their headphones connect to a Bluetooth speaker, and it all screws everything up. Like it's for the user to make that choice.
So there is a part 2 to this. The new Android 12 Bluetooth thing. The app uses Google Maps and location, Bluetooth 2. But do I need to assert not for location in the manifest file?
Read the Android 12 guidelines. That's all I say. I don't know off the top of my head, and that's all I would do. I would go to the Android website, see what it says in the release notes for the latest version, and follow what it says.
Yeah. Alrighty. Along that line, I'm kind of curious about something.
Well, so let me just show you here. So you go to just for anyone here. Let me share this just to show what this kind of process is. So you go to you go to developer.android.com. I go click on platform, releases. Here's the releases. This is Android 12, 13 beta. So I'm going to say 12. And it tells me what behavioral changes are taking place, what the new APIs are. and then what happens when you target different ones and the compatibility. There's a feature drop here, so you can see whatever else. So there's a diff here which actually shows you. So in bold are the things that have changed in the API in the entirety of between the two versions, right? So that's also helpful. So you can see what new things have come in. I don't know what that is, but we'll come out there. And then what you've also got is a list of all the features and changes that they put into Android 12, for example, optimized for larger screens and blah, 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 blah. And normally these things take you on to the documentation for how you do certain things with the new API changes, right? So the thing you're talking about will either be listed here if it's Android 12 or it would be listed in 13 if it's Android 13. I don't remember. I seem to vaguely remember the thing you're talking about, but I can't remember. There is behavior. There's also behavioral changes. The permissions are a behavioral thing. So if you target 12, then certain things apply when they don't. If you don't target 12 and so on, or 12 and above, shall we say? I don't know. I mean, I would just go through here and see what it says. Just do, I don't know, page search or something. I'm sure you'll find what you're looking for. But yeah, you just go into each platform, and then you've got obviously the latest one, which is 13, which is still in beta. You won't see the API because it's still in beta. You won't see the API diff, but you will get the feature stuff in here somewhere. Features and change list. There you go. And I'm sure you can find out what you're looking for in there. But yeah, so that's all we do. That's all I would do. Go look at read the docs, right? Read the docs is always the word. Yeah.
Yeah. A couple things real quick. One about the quick comment there. I didn't realize you were talking about this. No, that is definitely not beer. And the reason that I was thinking that you were somebody I knew is because I can't drink beer. And I was thinking you had to know that. It's a long story. Don't worry about it. But the other thing that is more relevant, has anybody else had the same problem with Android where you get in the car and VLC is turned off and Spotify is turned off and all your media is turned off? You start the car and suddenly your music starts blaring over Bluetooth.
I can tell you exactly what that
because
problem
it
is.
automatically started.
I can tell you exactly what that problem is. First of all, that's down to the program that you. It could be the Samsung, but it could be down to the program that's running. But actually, I found this out recently. You can when you play media on something targeting 12 and above, Android 12 and above, the media player shows you your notifications, but you can swipe it away now. Where before, if it was playing, you wouldn't be able to swipe it, but you could choose whether you want to swipe it away. You can always swipe away the notification and the music continues to play. You pull down the notifications again and they're there. The controls are there still. So what actually happens
is but that's I'm not talking about having stopped it. I'm talking about it's not running in the first place.
Finished. If you then swipe it away and it's stopped, you think it's finished and stopped, but it never is. It's there paused. So what happens is you go into your further down into settings and it's still there, potentially ready to play. And then when you connect up your Bluetooth, it's getting triggered. The software, whatever that is that you're listening to, like Spotify or something, that a device is connected and it starts playing because the service is still running. It's because they haven't made it compatible with this new version of Android.
Right, but what I'm thinking is I didn't close it that way. I actually would go into where it shows all programs, hit close all.
Yeah, no, it's still there.
No notification. It's still there.
It's still.
So I'm going to have to force kill my media apps before I get.
It might be the media app itself, a bug in the media app itself, because the notification, even if it's force quit, you'll still get the broadcast notifications for a device attached. But anyway, fun times.
Oh yeah.
That's the one thing I like. Just funny is I see software, right? We work with, we use software all the time. Whenever I see software and there's some like obvious bug that's happening, you're like, that's what I really hate. It's like like shitty software devs, as it were. Like
just because I turned on my headphones doesn't mean I want your app to start.
I know this stuff is complicated, right? And I get it, but it's like companies they prioritize this stuff. It's like, no, your users come first. You should be fixed. Don't forget about new features. Fix what's there. Well,
and the thing is too, you have to make an effort to start on Connect. It's not like this happened accidentally or because somebody didn't prevent it.
Who knows? Anyway. Right.
All right.
Next question.
Download a plugin Can you download a plugin dependency after installing the app? My first thought is that since Flutter compiles to ahead of time compiled code, when are you going to compile that dependency?
I'm gonna say something else. The problem you've got with this is exactly the thing you're using. Don't use that. so first of all, well, no, FFmpeg, you're shipping an entirety of an immediate encoding suite and processing and everything else in your app. It's gonna enlarge it, right? However, I will mention that you say it's enlarged to 120. It hasn't. And I completely, like, you need to go look at your APK and you'll find that actually what's happened is you've made like a fat APK or an AAB in that bundle. And the idea is it bundles all the different variations of the native code for FFmpeg. Each one is about 20 meg, probably, or 20 to 50 meg. And what's happened is you've got all the variations, but the download size, even though your upload size that you have on your hard drive is 120 meg, you put it up to the Play Store. When the user downloads it, they only download the bits they need, and that's all automatic. And if you go look at the download site, like I think there's like a estimate download size in the Play Store, you'll see it's like 20 meg or something like that. It's not 120, right? So although it's increased your app upload size, it actually hasn't increased your download size for your app. Okay, just to be clear, this is always a common misconception. Yeah, so that's just something to look at. Obviously, you could be talking about iOS. iOS is a similar thing. It does universal binaries with bitcode, and they're quite large. And then when the store gets them, they recompile them from the bitcode down into the variation that's needed for the device that it's on to optimize for the device. And again, the download size won't be as large as the original upload. However, the iOS stuff is normally a little bit larger than the Android. Anyway, I'm assuming you're talking about mobile here, but yeah, FFmpeg, that's what you're going to get. Ideally, what you want to do, and I tell you this from my own experience, I don't know what you're trying to do exactly, but you're going at it in the wrong way. A plugin, like you've got a plugin that is, you use this plugin for everything, right? Like when you want a very specific use case, what you need to do is download FFmpeg, build FFmpeg just with the bit that you need. And you're going to find out that it's actually probably a couple of meg, right? You can turn off all the flags and just include the bit you need. Like you only want to process YUV, not RGB, and blah, blah, blah. And you'll be able to make a little tiny deliverable, but obviously that requires a lot more effort, right? So make it work, see if you get traction. And if you get traction, then you can optimize later. That's what I'd say.
Okay. We've got a number of questions and about a half an hour left on what we're going to try to do. So we need to keep it moving. Each language has advantages and a reason to use it as a backend. What's the advantage of Dart? The first thing I can think of is if your whole stack is in one language, then you can shuffle people around easier on your team.
What we've been finding is doing verticals, right? So you can give someone the job of saying write the API and the front end for something, and they can just go down like the vertical side. Well, there's no longer this. I'm going to build the front end, push it over the fence like volleyball, pop, and then the other person grabs that volleyball and goes, okay, now I need to build the API for this, and then they pop it back again, and then they go, oh no, it needs to change. It doesn't need to have the building. I need a separate flag. Back and forth. And all that back and forth costs so much time and effort.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing any kind of validation client side for a form element, like this is in a certain range or this has certain properties, you can't trust that on server side. So you have to do the very same validation. And if it's both in the same language, you can share a library between your back end and your front end called validate this kind of data. And it's much handier than if you have to rewrite it in JS or Python or something like that on the back end.
I have to say on that, I've seen it before when you have the same, meant to be the same validation routine on both, and their language is called slightly different variations, or someone's implemented slightly differently, and it all screws up in some terrible way.
Like regexes are notoriously different between different languages. So regex is not a standard thing. still.
The other, it's actually got a little bit better actually now. The egrep and pgrep, like it's kind of all gone. I can't remember. It's gone to, I think the Perl grep, I think is that standard one now.
The PCRE library has provided standards, but it has 12 knobs that you can turn on or off inside PCRE. So sorry.
So
okay.
Anyway, before
moving on.
Hang on. I was just mentioned that the other advantage, obviously, to using Dart on the server side is the speed of. Again, it's the same reason why we like it in Flutter. Speed of development, hot reload. You can do all that on your local machine, and then once you're ready to ship it, you then compile that code to machine code, and you get the performance aspect of it on the server side, right?
Yeah,
and
the server's not running Dart. The server's running assembly.
Your server's only running its own program. In fact, if you do the scratch build, which is what was shown, Kev Moo showed in his, their little Docker script, what it does is it actually compiles your app, and then your compiled app is what's shipped. It's about 4 megabytes for like your basic sort of runtime for Dart containing a server. And that's like huge. Most of these deployments, they go and ship PHP, Apache, a bunch of other crap with their deployment of their Docker container. And you get like a 500 meg or gigabyte or more multi-gigabyte Docker containers. Right.
So it's not 4 meg isn't huge. It's just huge that it's only 4 meg.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, go on, Roberto.
All right.
What's he got?
Uploading images to my server. Should I convert the images to Webp in the app before upload, or should I handle it on the server side?
It's a tough call. So first of all, depends on how you. I'd say. It depends on how you want to upload these things, right? So I think half the problem most people have is they don't know how to correctly upload. There's two popular ways of uploading, right? One is multi-part mime, which is a HTTP standard. So that means you send your file up to the server in a HTTP request, which means it has to be in text format. So your entire file is actually encoded, probably base 64 encoded, the entire file contents. That makes it about 4 times, can be up to 4 times the size of the original binary content to get in text form. That is a huge drain on bandwidth on uploading, right? So you tend not to try and do that. What you want is a binary upload. That's normally a put call, right? Not a post. And to do a put, you need an endpoint that you're going to write the data directly to. It needs to know what you're writing. So a common practice is to upload using signed URLs. So you get your server gets a bucket URL, signs it, sends it down to the app, and the app can only upload to that URL with a put request. This means the binary data is immediately uploaded. There's no conversion that takes place. It's slightly better on the bandwidth and faster to upload, and it's more secure, right? For various reasons. Anyway, normally less effort as well. However, when it comes to uploading images, again, someone takes a picture with their camera and it's like an 18 megapixel image because they got an 18 megapixel sensor, right? The first thing you've got there is, do I actually want an 18 megapixel image? The answer is probably no. However, if you could upload all that data. Now it takes time to upload that data. And then now you get to the server, you need to process that image. That's all effort on the server side and cost on the server side called CPU time, right? So, memory is possible, and it's definitely a lot quicker to do that, right? Like in terms of you could just not even worry about image resizing in your first pass, just to validate that the idea that you've got works. However, most of the time you want to use like the image picker library on the device side, and it actually has a width, and you can give it a width and a height, max width and height, and it will resize on the client device in the most optimal way for Android or iOS. So you set your upper bound to something more realistic for your use case. Let's say it's a profile picture, 512 by 512, 124 by 124, something like that, right? So you've kind of got like a reasonable like image size, and then it's resized on device as part of the image picking. You already get your image resized by the time it gets to Dart, and then you're submitting up. I don't think converting it to a particular format makes any difference whatsoever. Webp, I know you're suggesting that from a bandwidth sense, because the images you get better compression out of it. But to be honest, the compression factor here is not a big one, right? Unless you're trying to upload, again, the original source images at the highest resolution. There's no point with any sort of conversion. That's why I say to that. There you go. Anyway.
Alrighty. Moving on. How can I position a snack bar?
You don't.
Yeah. You make something that looks like a snack bar.
So there's a material banner, and material banner will appear at the top of the screen. So if you go look up material banner, that's what you're actually is the widget that you want. The point here, though, is the whole idea. This is the thing, right? And we were actually discussing this quite recently in some theming discussions that we've been having of various things. Actually, let me just bring this up so you know what I'm talking about. Material banner is the widget, and then you can see it here. There you go. So it's like a banner at the top. You can put actions on it. So it's just like a snack bar at the top. I'm not sure. Yeah. So you just put in the body. But yeah, it's just a widget that you can display. I think there you go. Look, show banner. There you go. Dismiss. There's examples on here. Scaffold, scaffold messenger of context, show material banner. You give it the material banner. So it's just like a snack bar, it shows the top. It sounds to me like what you're looking for. But I have to say, like at the end of the day, these are the material design, like the material design guidelines are set out in this way. A snack bar is that. It's a snack bar. It's not a banner there at the top of the screen. If you want that, just build that with standard widgets, right? That's nothing to do with material design. Don't try and fit material design into doing what you want it to do, because it's not been built for that, right? You should be building your own widgets in that situation.
One of the interesting things that we've been doing is we've been trying to not import material. Now, you do have to show things once in a while, such as if you're going to use an icon, then yes, you're going to need to import material.dart and then say show icons. But for the vast majority of stuff, you don't need it. You just use Dart UI. So
there's also in place of material.dart. So you got Flutter, the Flutter package, Flutter/material.dart, I think it is, or something like that. You can use widgets.dart, and that's like the base widgets. That's not material specific, and that means that you can sort of start stepping away from the sort of material design specific implementations. Things like the actual widget called material is actually what's called a physical shape. That's actually a widget under the hood. That's what it is. It's a physical shape. There's also a physical model, which is the underlying thing behind a container when you give it a box shape. So these are all things that are already sort of built into the framework.
There we go. So, hey, side question, just for fun, real quick. I would like to hear from the audience. Okay. On one of my browsers, I have 180 tabs open, 180. Simon thinks I have a problem and need to go to Chrome Anonymous. Me, I just think it's a good excuse to buy a better CPU. What do you think?
Well, Randall, isn't it about that time that you do a call out to suggest people do something?
Oh, it is, isn't it? So all you guys that are here in the chat room are getting your questions answered as quickly as we can get to them. But you probably have friends that are also want to have their questions answered, but they don't know about this show yet. So please pass along the URL, pass along the idea of looking at Flutter community in the YouTube channels, and you'll find upcoming shows, and you can subscribe, which means you'll be notified right away when we're setting up another show. So please do that. Please let your friends know, because there's a lot more fun when they're here.
All right.
Absolutely. And if you're like me and don't have friends, then just tell your relatives.
Tell your coworkers.
Razzle my Dazzy.
Yes. Any advice for managing private Dartpug packages in an enterprise scenario?
No, not really. I've never actually gone down that route. So a lot of the time we end up doing like mono repos and then it doesn't become a thing. Or you use simply just use Git references in your imports, and then they could be private Git repos. So again, it doesn't require sort of any sort of publishing of packages. If you're trying to do a pub server, you can actually do a pub server, and you can, in an enterprise scenario, if you feel like you're building out, for example, if you're building out a whole, you've got like a corporate environment and they've got a ton of apps and it's a whole infrastructure thing, then yeah, it makes sense to run a private pub server, and there's support for that. I know they released support for that. Actually, I think it was Flutter 3 they officially released support. It's been around for a while. You could always reuse the packages that they use, but now it's like an official, like you can just spin up a pub package server of your own internally, and then the hosted option you can tell it to, I think there's a environment variable or something you set where it tells it to go to your enterprise server before the public server, so to look for packages. But pub has always been able to support like different hosted servers. It's always had that support from day one.
Yeah. And just to give you an idea, if you don't know what a monorepo is, in short, there are repos that basically contain multiple packages within them, multiple Flutter apps, so to speak. We've got one, what the smaller one has got mobile, web, and common. There's another one I was just looking at. We've got 13 different sub packages.
You just reminded
modules.
me. I mean, here is the Flutter plugins official one. Packages. Yep. There you go. There's a bunch of. That's a monorepo, right?
Like every single one of those it could have been into individual repo, but it's all within a single.
And inside that, they've got multiple packages with different variations as well. And then you go pick one of those, and there's the actual pub spec YAML. So yeah, you can always go down the route of a monorepo, and they all have their benefits. And so there's actually a nice project called Melos.
Yes, I was just about to say the danger with this is if you don't use something like Melos, you need to run Flutter pub get individually, one at a time. Wow, when I go full screen, I get blue. There, that's better.
So it's all for Imagine Dark project with multiple packages, and it's basically this. So you can you can do basically it lets you run multiple commands and manage things. You can see here some of the other samples from the community of people that are using this, including now us in the Plus plugins and the official Flutterfire team, who actually built this, by the way. Invitae's built this for the Flutterfire project. So anyway. That's what I get. Is that hopefully that helped answer your question? Post something else if not. Right.
Someone just said something sacrilegious in chat.
Anyway, is there anything new news related on Flutter Web Performance Boost?
We should get Miriam on the show again. It's been a while.
I think I'd say like they're always working to better the performance. I've seen a better performance in Flutter 3, so make sure you update to the latest. Make sure you update your pub spec to use the latest. That's another thing, right? So your pub spec should be listing the right Dart version and Flutter version in the environment section. The other thing to mention is that there are different renderers. So if you go on to, I might as well bring the website back up since we had it here. If you go on to api.flutter.dev, flutter.dev, inside docs, you'll find, I think, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a performance and ultimate. I can't remember what it was. There's web renderers. The one time I'm trying to find it, I can't find it. It was a link from the Flutter website. Platform web, here it is, web renderers. And then this lets you specify which of the two renderers to use. You might want to try running your project with a specific renderer just to see if that has a different impact. And then you can then build it for that particular renderer and see how it performs for you, because I've seen performance improvements when running with CanvasKit versus HTML renderer. So pick and choose, but you can update which renderer you want to use. Okay.
All righty.
All right, we're getting close to
Next.
the end of the show. We're midway through the show, actually. No,
Get
we're
you-
more than midway through the show.
Well, get your questions
And
in.
so, yeah, we're cutting off. So if
Get 'em in.
you
Get 'em
didn't
in
get your
now.
question yet, that's it. That's it. Yeah, right now, cut off. But
So
you can
server
still
side
type
rendering with Flutter
it.
Web.
We may get to it.
Is it even possible in the far future? If not, what is the main reason? Thanks. Well, you can definitely do server-side rendering with Dart. There's no problem with that.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why you couldn't do this. It just hasn't been done yet. I think it's the dynamic
server-side rendering done in the browser shouldn't be any different, should it?
No, that's not server-side rendering. That's in your browser then.
Yeah.
Right. The point is that the idea is that you take your what actually happens right now is when a Flutter website loads, it downloads the JavaScript for Flutter Web. It downloads your JavaScript that's been compiled from your Dart code, all that stuff. Then it runs that code that produces DOM components, HTML tags, and various other things, and canvases and all sorts. Renders them in the browser and displays them to the user. Voila. Now, the server-side rendering is the ability to do that whole process server-side. So when someone visits the website, it's already rendered, and like the DOM component's already there. You've got all the data there, and it just loads, right? You could do that. I don't know what there's several obviously problems in terms of like, if we're using canvas rendering now, you need to ship over the bitmap or the image that's going to be used for the display of that, right? With completely lossless compression, right? That might be an issue. Yes, if you're using CamSkit rendering. If you're using either way, the DOM tree could be sent down. I just don't think that there's a practical impact on that. There's a project that we looked at recently, which Soren, you might want to check out, called Jasper. Jasper is a you can find it. It's in Pub under Jasper, right? And this actually supports server-side rendering with Dart on the server. And it basically has a framework that is very similar. So if you go to the Jasper pad, you'll find that it's literally is a run app, and you give it the tag and the children and so on. And this is HTML. So what this is if I load up a sample, let's say weather API. There you go. You can see it running over here. I can type in London, and hit search, and there's the weather in London right now. So the point here is, you can see very much over the left here, you have this stateful component, stateless component, this notion of component. It's basically very familiar in terms of the feel of Flutter, but it's not Flutter, right? But then the output of this is DOM components, and therefore, and click listeners and all the rest of it, standard stuff. And this means that you end up using Dart, same feel as Flutter, but the end result can be server-side rendered without any sort of pixel rendering or anything like that. So there's obviously, you still have to deal with CSS. So that's your downside, right? You don't get like the layout engine. You don't get any layout engine with this. This is just building your components. But all the rest of it is familiar, right? So give it a go if you feel that solves your problem.
There we go. All right, I'm going to try and knock out some of the quicker ones here. Heard that Flutter Web is not good for SEO. What are some approaches to solve that? Step 1, don't use Flutter Web for an entire website. Flutter Web is for web apps, not websites. You do your website the same way you do any other website. You do your SEO the way you do any other SEO. When you make your web app, I would use semantic tags because those do get looked at, right?
I think that I'd say is you could just use that Jasper.
Yeah,
that solves that because it does server-side rendering, right? Like the HTML comes down, it's very fast. Yeah.
All right, next one, because we're running a little bit late here. When is the next Flutter Live event? When you know, let us know. Pretty much.
Well, we got the Flutter Vikings coming up next month.
Yes. So there you go. Head on up to
and I also
Oslo.
pointed them in the chat room to the GDG site to see if there's events around them that might be
lots of
live.
events.
So
in fact, That's another one we'll touch on at least briefly. GDG, Google Developer Groups. Go to developers.google.com. You will see all kinds of events. I just came from a summit there. I was in Chicago on Saturday, and they are really now pushing to start having events again, whether they be virtual, hybrid, or in person. And I can tell you, we are planning the Ohio Dev Fest starting on Monday. So there are going to be Dev Fests. There are going to be more events. And if you want to find them, developers.google.com. Here's a fun one. Is it possible to support playing DRM video via an official video player plugin? We've run into some fun with this.
Yeah. I think you can do that. I don't know.
The thing is there are a lot of different parts of DRM.
I was gonna say, what platform are you running on? That's one thing. That's obviously it's particular. You said that via official video player plugin. Well, you can always just do your own. It's not that difficult for your own specific DRM needs, right? But the official player does support HLS encrypted streams and MPEG dash encrypted streams. So yeah, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't do the DRM stuff unless there's some internal compatibility with the way that Flutter captures the display. But I'm pretty sure that's not a problem. I may be wrong, but yeah, no, it should be fine.
And don't forget, there are multiple DRM. At least if you're talking about video, is normally stopping the ability to record via something like OBS, stopping the ability to share via something like Zoom, stopping screen caps, and don't forget, folks, stopping someone from copying the link and emailing it to their friends.
Yeah. So to be clear, what actually happens is the device has a key on it that gets license checked with the server, gets encrypted. The actual notion is that it actually gets sent down, the video gets sent encrypted down to the device to your monitor. Your monitor, your let's say you're on a desktop, same for your phone, obviously the screen of your phone, but your monitor actually has a chip in it which does HDCP, which is HD cipher protection or something. I can't remember what it is. But the point is that is the encryption that actually takes place end to end. And that's the notion of it. Like, you may see it on your screen, but literally the software doesn't know what it is, right? Like, it just tells your screen, at this position, I want you to decode and display this data, and it's done on your screen.
And to answer that question, it just popped up real quick. I believe grabbing a texture is what we were talking about with either a screenshot or what Simon was just talking about, that the software doesn't actually know what it's displaying.
So even though it does do a texture, it still it works on the underlying system as a unit of encrypted content, and it should work just fine. Maybe there's bugs and problems. Don't know off the top of my head.
One other one real quick. Can we connect a MySQL database to a Flutter desktop app? No problem at all. I mean, I've done that with PHP. PGAdmin. I'm using Postgres 4 or PGAdmin 4.
I mean, like, the answer is yes, you could. The answer is should you, and the answer is no.
Well, for a desktop,
I'm just doing a little local thing that's only got 1,000 records.
No, the point here is, well, they don't use. Why would you use MySQL, like a whole MySQL server for 1,000 records? Just use a bloody list, write it to a file, right? If you're trying to get the power of a full database server, great. Do you want, yes, connect directly to your MySQL server if you want to allow the client to perform any action on those tables, right? Let me be clear about that. You need to, if you're going to do this way that you're asking, where MySQL connects to the server, you should have SSL enabled on your server, or your data sent back and forth between your database and your app should be encrypted. That's using TLS or SSL on your server. That means you need to have client key certificates, signing, dealing with all of that stuff, hosting your server on a domain that can be validated with its key, all this kind of jazz. Hold on. And then
5 minutes, 4 questions.
Don't worry. The other side of that is, of course, the fact that you should have usernames and passwords. Well, don't just share one password for all your clients, right? Each one should have their own. So what user made what change in the database, so it'll be in the logs. Now you've got a problem. Now you need to manage that, right? So all may be separate from your standard authentication mechanism, right? So don't just, you can obviously key in on the back end with Kerberos or one of these other systems for what are you doing? I was to answer the question, right? The point is you can also key in your Mysql to a back-end authentication system, right? So that you've got one setup. But the point here is, communicate directly with of course, your database has to be set up so that you've got table permissions. So you're going to write to a table, you're going to read from this table, you're going to write to that column or read from that column. You need to add proper permissions if you can do that. The idea of putting a server in front of an API is to give you that control. You give your custom authentication, you still keep your same authentication system. Your API gives you that validation and also the protection against the database. The database can change its structure, its format, and the API stays the same. There's reasons that you have an API, and I would recommend always putting an API in play. But obviously, if even if you're on a local network in your local system, you should still have a server with an API that the clients use. It gives you that protection. That's if you want to make something quick and dirty, go right ahead. I'm just giving you, like, if you're making a professional application, you're trying to ship this out to external people, don't do that. Don't put your entire database in the hands of someone outside your company. You're asking for big trouble.
Okay. Handling a JSON string, is it worth it to convert map string object or keep it dynamic? In other words, string dynamic. Should they make it string object? Yeah, in other words, to get away from dynamic.
Yeah, but if you're handling a JSON string, is it worth converting it to object? No, it's the same thing. An object is your base type for any object, including dynamic. No, it's the same thing.
Dynamic.
The point here is object is not nullable. Dynamic is nullable. That's the only difference here, right? But the point here is it comes as a string to dynamic for the purpose of it's dynamic. So making that change would make no magical difference because you still have to cast the object up. You have to upcast it from object to whatever the data type is. So it makes no performance impact whatsoever.
Okay.
So when you do a cast, by the way, that's a runtime thing. So when you access it, it does the type checking, right? So you ideally want to, it's when you're dealing with any serialized data like JSON or deserialized data, that's the nature of it. It's serialized into any form. It's untyped, right? JSON is an untyped language essentially, right? It's text. So
I can take this one.
Go for it.
Okay.
The package.
Oh no, this
NTP.
has to do with time. Don't ask Randall.
Well, what's the question?
Don't get me started.
Any idea to check the device time wrong on note mean manual time set or not offline?
The package NTP will use the official time servers all over the internet to figure out what the real time is as opposed to what your device is set to. So you can always use that to see the difference. In fact, there's a couple of applications that use that actually show the delta.
You need to know what but you need to know what region the user's in. Then you still need to know where the user is.
No, you can use pool. If you do ntp.pool.net, it works everywhere in the world.
But how does it know what time zone you're in?
It uses. Oh no, we're talking about the GMT time. This is going to give you the GMT time precisely, so you can look at your local device GMT time precisely and compare the two.
Yeah. So that'll tell you the delta of what's different from the current user. Gotcha. Yeah. The other side of this is also you can just say if the way if you want to know if it's off, grab the time from your server. So when you make a HTTP request, in any API call to your HTTP server, you'll get back a date timestamp of the server. Right now, if you go check that time compared to the user's time and it's off by more than 24 hours, their time is set wrong. Because they can't be more than 24 hours out from your server, because that's the globe, right? Yeah. Anyway, there you go.
Right, and I just put the package NTP in the chat.
What are some best practices?
NTP stands for Network Time Protocol. It's a standard that we use for time management over the internet. Anyway, go on.
Okay. What are some best practices for protecting a Flutter application over time from issues or vulnerabilities in dependencies? The first thing I can think of is update frequently.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's yeah. Well, I had a situation when I was on contract for a company. One of the developers, apparently they came from Android, and they insisted that they should not upgrade their SDK or any dependencies during the entire development cycle because they were afraid it was going to break things, and they were afraid of breaking changes and dependencies of dependencies. And I'm like, you can't do that. You have to keep things current.
That's your programmer's. That's the programmer's job.
Fun.
Come on.
So they had me put together the CI/CD on this, right? And so I set up the CI, which of course is spinning up a new virtual machine every time you need to run it. And this new virtual machine, as part of the script, is installing Flutter, the latest Flutter. So I put together the CI, I run the sample code, it's fine. They go to run code off their machine and claim there's something wrong with the CI. And it's like, no, you haven't updated in 3 months. You're out of date. But of course, they didn't want to hear that. Anyhow, yeah, but that's the biggest thing I can think of. Moving on here, how can we print Arabic text on a Bluetooth connected thermal printer? Now, and that's an interesting one.
Do you want me to so first of all, I'd say what Bluetooth printer? So there's standards that Epson, HP both have their own standards that are just, you simply send text as like a serial communication, and there's command sequences that tell it that you want to set up a new font, for example. You can actually program an Arabic font into the printer. So they will print that when you print Arabic characters. That will work. You can do that in all of them. They all support multi-languages, right? A lot of them already support Arabic and Unicode standard to the full extent. When you buy a printer, if you buy a US printer, it's going to be English and it's going to be the primary thing. But if you buy one in that area of the world where Arabic is spoken, then you'll have Arabic as the font that's shipped with it. But you can always reprogram those fonts, and they're bitmap fonts. You can send the data across. You can just reprogram whenever you want. Obviously, that takes time. So there's probably a little startup time where you program the font, and then when you actually print it off, it doesn't take that much time.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. Go on.
I was going to get hacky with it. If the printer is capable of printing a PDF, then you could always create a PDF and print that. That way you don't have to worry about whether or not the printer is able to print the Arabic fonts.
Yeah, you can actually. So actually, well, you don't do a PDF because they don't support PDF, the thermal printers. But you can actually.
You wouldn't be able to do that. You
can print images, so you can actually render the Arabic font in Flutter as an image, get the image data, and send it over to the thermal printer. That also works. Here you go. So this just somebody else asked about where to get jobs. This is flutterjobs.info. Lots of remote jobs available potentially, and then there's also flutterjobs.com, which is another website that also
if you put Flutter in your LinkedIn, you'll be attacked.
So
pretty much you'll be attacked by recruiters.
There's plenty of jobs out there.
So yeah,
the best thing to do in terms of trying to get a job, make yourself a little portfolio on a website. Show off you've got Flutter Web. I mean, render it as Flutter Web. You can see your apps and just make something up and send that out.
Just remember, don't do the whole site in Flutter Web. Do your web apps in Flutter Web.
Here we go. Right.
How many times do we say that? And we keep getting, well, how do I do SEO in Flutter? Well, number one, you don't. You do SEO in your web page. Okay, with Flutter Web, how can I remove the pull to refresh loading indicator? The turbo donut.
There's
in pull to refresh.
Oh, no. It's not pull to refresh. It's not what he means. When you initially start a Flutter website, there's like a loading bar that animates like a horizontal loading bar along the top of the web page.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. They actually added that in the latest version of Flutter 3. You can update the way that it works. So hang on. If you go, I think it was last week I actually showed this, but let me find it again. You can confirm it because I did it before I just checked it. So yeah, it definitely works. So you go to if you go flutter.dev, flutter.dev docs.
Something that came up this morning. If you mouse over the word docs, it will show you a whole menu, and there's no link to the docs. What it is you have to click on the word docs itself.
Where was it? Customizing web app initialization. This is it. And this talks about how you actually add like a loader and displaying a progress, your own progress indicator. And there's actually an example of this for Flutter Gallery. So yeah, that's what you're looking for. I'll put that link in the chat. But yeah, this is it. It's all documented. And the example in Flutter Gallery actually shows you in here. There's a nice little like bit of CSS here, which makes like a little animation of the Flutter logo or something, if I remember rightly. But yeah, just you update the JavaScript, you put a little bit of CSS in and whatever you want, and away it goes. No more loading spinner. There you go.
Okay, and I'll take the last one real quick. How do you extract the data from a list view where each tile has its own data? You can't make a list view until you hand it a list of data. So you need, this is chicken or the egg. You need your list of data before you can create the list view. So you should already have that somewhere.
So I think, so what was that? Hang on.
I think he's talking about the idea that he has stateful widgets in his list view and they change state, which is really the wrong place to have model data. View model,
in that case, you're going to have to keep your list somewhere else. And
yeah, you have to
each
have the model
data
data
outside has its own data. Well,
yeah.
you would normally so first of all, list view will throw away its children and reuse them. That's the whole purpose. So you don't want to do that, right? Your data should be outside of your tile and being handed to your tile when it starts up. And if it has changes, they get written back out. That's what you should do. That way you can have like a list of 1 million items and only 12 are ever displayed on the screen at once.
Basically, it's if 10 of them are showing, it's rendering like 12, one above, one below. And as it rotates, like Simon said, it destroys the tiles that are getting out of range. It doesn't store them somewhere. So any data that was on them, if you didn't save it somewhere else. Alrighty.
I'm going to take this one. It can't work offline. There's network time protocol. It works on a network, right? but the point here is if you're trying to do it offline, well, how do you know the source of truth? The only source of truth you have is a local device. Therefore, you cannot fix that problem, right? It's that simple, right? So yeah, just be aware that you could just the first time that online and they're using your app capture the time then for the local timestamp at that point in time, and then you can work out you could also say, is that, as I said before, is that local time different from the server time or some external source more than 24 hours and it's wrong, and you can do the NTP then. But you only have to do it once. Once you've done it once, you can know the difference between their local device timestamp and the real time, and you'll just apply that difference to all your timestamps if you want to.
I would like to point out something that is almost miraculous. We have made it through the whole show and no one asked a state management question.
Don't jinx it. It's not happening.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, one thing. I think that's it.
I'm sitting here reaching for the leaving video as quickly as I can. No, but really, that's we're going to call it. And you all have a great time. We did it in 1 hour and 10 minutes, so it has not been that bad.
Thanks, everyone, for stopping by.
Unless there's anything else special.
We try to be here every week, so
yeah,
come on in next week. We have questions that didn't make it today, then bring them back. We'll try them again.
Definitely. And yeah, don't forget, you can always reach out on Twitter, at Flutter.com. Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.